Hi guys, I'm here with the Lenovo IdeaPad 330 with an Intel Celeron processor, and I'm looking at the website that I bought it from, which is walmart.com. You'll see I have two choices here on the screen you can see, and that's a $219 version of the IdeaPad 330 and a $289 version. So I went with the cheap one because I wanted to see what you could get for your buck with $200, $219. It says it's a bestseller, and you know why that is, because people like cheap. You can get a few different color configurations. I got mine as gray. You can get a lovely, what do they call it, plum purple. You can get the platinum gray, which is the type that I have. You can onyx black. Actually, I have the onyx black, not the gray. Or you can get a coral red. So all the same price. The specs on this, as you can see, there is an Intel Celeron N4000 dual-core processor, 4 GB of RAM, and 1 TB hard drive. So the processor is weak, the memory is very limited, and that 1 TB hard drive, while generous in size, I found out is the slowest spinning you can get, 5,400 RPM. So it's a slow hard drive. So overall, slow is the word on this, but cheap, $219. So is it worth it? We're gonna find out. So here we're looking at the Lenovo IdeaPad 330 screen. It's a 15.6-inch screen. The type of screen that I have is only a 1366 by 768 resolution, so that's pretty low resolution for this size screen. It is not IPS, so that means it does not have wide viewing angles. The colors are pretty good. For this type of laptop, I've certainly seen worse. There's no annoying artifacts. There were no stuck pixels, and color reproduction is decent. What is not so good is the vertical viewing angle. So what I mean by that is if I adjust the screen like this, you're gonna see some of those colors start to wash out, right? If I put it back like this, same type of deal. The colors really wash out and become dark and you can't see it. So the best way to view it is straight on. Now from the side, it's not quite so bad. The colors are not as good from the side, but they hold much better than the vertical viewing angles. So I would say that the side viewing angle is pretty decent. Vertical viewing angles, not so great, but that's not necessarily bad because most of the time you're going to be viewing it perpendicular to your eyes, which means 90-degree angle, and that's the way it's ergonomically best and most comfortable. So you're not going to be viewing the screen like that or that. So you should be fine so as long as you keep the screen straight up like such. Now let's talk about the keyboard and the touchpad on the IdeaPad 330. So being a large computer, you have a generous amount of space. So they do spread out the keys. They go edge to edge, which is great. They're using the extra space for a number pad over here, as you can see. You get some extra media buttons that we'll take a look at in a second. The touchpad is generously sized. One thing that I find slightly annoying is that, well, it's not centered with the body of the laptop, it's centered with the keyboard. That does make sense from a use perspective, but from a visual perspective, it looks kind of odd, but it's pretty typical of this size laptop. As far as the feel of the keys, I enjoy them. I think it's good. The travel is a little shallow. The keys don't feel as good as our ThinkPad keyboard, which has one of the best keyboards in the industry. But for a $200 laptop, which is actually what this is, it's actually a very good keyboard as far as feel goes. The touchpad does not have dedicated buttons. They're hidden, so this is your left, this is your right. You can't tell where it is. There's the dividing line is in the middle, as you would imagine, but there's no actual thing on the touchpad to show you where that dividing line is of left and right, which I feel could have been done just to make it a little more usable and obvious. And you do have all the typical gestures like two-touch scroll, and you can pinch to zoom, things like that. Now let's take a closer look at the keyboard here so you can see what keys you get. So, of course, the typical keyboard keys. The top row are media function keys, so you have the mute button, volume down, volume up, microphone off. But in addition to all those, you also get some extra media buttons over here. You have skip to end, rewind, fast forward. And notice also the power button is integrated into the keyboard, so that very top right button is actually the power on button. And then you have a number pad over here, which is great. An extra enter key over here. Generous size enter key, very generous size shift key. Dedicated home, page up, page down, and end. So overall, it makes for a very comfortable keyboard experience. You can easily get to the keys you need, and they feel pretty good, like I said. So overall, I give this keyboard and touchpad an 8 out of 10. Room for improvement, but for the price that I paid for this, very good. As far as design and build goes for the IdeaPad 330, there's not much to be said. It's a pretty bland design, but it's not offensive in any way. This is the black color. You can get multiple colors. There's some pretty funky colors out there. There's like a purple and I believe a blue. I just got the gray because, you know, I just wanted a normal colored laptop. You'll notice there's a little bit of metallic texture here. It is not actually metal. This is a plastic body. Again, $200 laptop, that's what you expect. But there are some nice design features, like the hinge itself is pretty strong. So watch this, as it's closing, I let go and it's gonna close itself. So the hinges are nice and solid. I don't have any issues with them being flimsy or the screen flopping around. Notice that it's hard for me to open the laptop with just one hand. That's a good thing. That means that the hinge is solid and that it's rigid. It's not going to be a floppy screen. Let's take a look at the cover, or what I should say the lid. So it says Lenovo on it. So that's the only branding you really get on the lid. The lid is where I would say the weakness is, because it's really pretty flimsy. You can push in quite a bit. And if I open it up, and we look at it again and I turn on the screen, you'll notice that when I push in on the back of the screen, you'll probably see some ripple effect. See that? When I push in, so that means that there's not much protection from the lid there, because I'm pushing in, there's a lot of torque, and I can bend the screen super easy. So that's a bad thing. If you're carrying this in your backpack and it's bending around, you're seeing that. It means there's not much protection there and your screen's easily going to get damaged. So that's a bit of a bummer. But the actual touchpad area, these are solid, very solid. Gets a little hot down here by the touchpad. It must be the hard drive down there that's spinning and getting hot. So that's not so great. As far as protection on the bottom of the laptop, again, a little flimsy there, and you hear a lot of creaking. I wouldn't want to put this in a backpack that has like 20 pounds plus of books, because this might crack. I wouldn't have much confidence in it. So you got to treat it well and be a little gentle with it. As long as you're gentle with it, put it in inside a case, then it should be okay. All right, let's take a tour around this laptop, the IdeaPad 330, and see what the ports are. So starting from the back left, this is the power jack port. So it's a proprietary connector. It's not USB-C or anything like that, nothing universal. So you're gonna have to be tied to the adapter that the company gives you, in this case, Lenovo. So when I plug it in here, you'll see a white light comes on. That indicates charging. All right, great. So next to that, we have an Ethernet port. And you notice this is a fairly slim laptop, so they've actually had to put in, it's slimmer than the port itself, so you actually have a little spring mechanism that helps open up the port so you can stick the Ethernet cord in there. Feels a little flimsy. I wouldn't be too confident in this not breaking after a period of time, so be careful with that. Next to it, we have an HDMI port, so if you're connecting to a display, you would connect right there. And then we have a couple of USB 3.0 ports right here. Then to the right of that is the headphone jack. So if you're wearing headphones or a microphone, you put it in there. SD card slot right here. See that? Then we have the hard drive indicator and the power button right here. Okay. On the front, we don't have any ports. Rotate around to the right side, and we have a DVD drive, not a port, but an optical drive nonetheless. It does not open when we've got the lid closed, so I can't open that for you. And here is a lock slot, so if you're going to be leaving your laptop somewhere, you would want to secure it using this little slot with a lock in it. On the back, you have nothing. It's just the hinge, okay? No power, no battery, no nothing. So that's it. There's no other ports on this. A little disappointed not to see USB-C, but again, this price point of a couple $100, that's not something you often get. All right, guys, let's talk about the performance of this IdeaPad 330 for a little bit. And with a $200 laptop, you don't expect a whole lot, and well, you don't get a whole lot. So, you know, get what you expect here, that's for sure. So I have the Intel Celeron N4000 processor. So it's a dual core processor, but don't let that impress you. 4 gig of RAM, which is definitely not enough. So you need to upgrade the RAM if you want a computer that's anywhere near usable. So the hard drive I got is a 1 terabyte hard drive, and it's 5400 RPM spinning. So that's a slow spinning hard drive. I looked it up using the device manager, and it looks like it's a Western Digital Blue drive. So let's see, I think I have that page on Newegg where I saved, yeah, there it is. This is the drive you get inside. So you can buy it for like $50 from Newegg. So not a terrible drive, but it's not really a performance oriented drive either. So you could certainly speed up your laptop by installing an SSD instead of a hard drive. Okay, so I mean, just to show you some of the laggy performance I get, if I just close a bunch of stuff out here, and I've got Task Manager open, so we'll just leave that open. Even look at this, I'm trying to close a window and it's just not responding. So I'll close out Chrome, it's slow to close. Here's a few more details on the processor I have. It's this Intel Celeron N4000. It's a Gemini Lake, low power 6-watt processor. Okay, so it saves on battery life, but doesn't give you much performance. So watch this. If I open Chrome, it's gonna take like a few seconds. That's because I'm low on memory and my processor is struggling. Let's open a few tabs and let's browse out to YouTube and see what's going on there. And it's just slow to load. Things are popping in, and that's, let's go to another website. Let's go to, I don't know, let's go to The Verge, and, that didn't do it. Let's see how fast that loads. Well, let's do a web search first to get there. And slow. Everything's just slow. Okay, if I'm scrolling, I'm trying to scroll and just getting a lot of flashing, and it's not the website, it's really just a lack of memory. So you really need to upgrade the memory and just, you know, have low expectations. The processor, I think, might be okay if you're just doing web browsing, but you need a faster hard drive and you need more memory in order to boost the performance of this laptop. Of course, the better solution is just to get the IdeaPad 330 with a better processor, like an AMD Ryzen or something like that, not this Intel Celeron. All right, so here we have the inside of the Lenovo IdeaPad 330 with the base of it removed. So you'll see over here, I removed the base. So this is the actual bottom protection, the base here. And it took quite a bit of work because there were 13 screws I had to remove before I could pry that cover off. And it took a little bit of effort to pry it off. I just used my fingers. You have to be a little bit gentle so you don't break any clips, right? So let's just take a tour of the inside here and see what we have. So taking up a lot of the space here is the optical drive. That's right here. So it's a Super Multi DVD writer in this case. Below that, I have the hard drive. So it is in the location I suspected. So this is the 1 terabyte Western Digital, and it gets a little warm on the keyboard where this hard drive is. So when it's on and your right hand is going to be over this, it's going to get a little warm because it's a fairly warm running hard drive. Next to the hard drive, we have the lithium ion battery. So if you want to get to the battery, you have to take off the cover. It's not user replaceable, technically. You could open it up and put it in yourself here, obviously, but it's not as easy as back in the day where you could just pop out the battery and put in a new one. Then we have the motherboard and the heatsink in here. I was wondering where the RAM is, and it's a little bit hidden. So there's this cover here. If I remove this, you will see it's a single slot memory. So if I wanted to upgrade the memory, you're gonna have to buy not just another 4 gig stick, you're gonna have to buy like an 8 gig. I would recommend at least 8 gig or 16 gig stick. So you would just then remove this memory module that's in here. It's easy enough to do. And then pop in a new one. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. So I'm gonna remove that pin, pop it up, pull it out, and then you would just put in your new stick here, and then push it in and pop it down like that. So that's how you upgrade the memory. Pretty easy. And I would highly recommend getting at least 8 gig or 16 gig preferably to put into this laptop, because as it is with 4 gig, it's very slow running and runs out of memory fast. Okay, and obviously if you wanted to upgrade the hard drive to an SSD, you could do that by coming over here and popping this guy out and putting in an SSD, which I would also recommend to boost performance. So the question you guys all want answered is this IdeaPad 330 worth buying? Well, the configuration that I have, as I've been talking about with the Intel Celeron N400 processor and 4 gig of RAM and a terabyte slow hard drive, is poor performance. It's not a good idea to buy this unless you're comfortable upgrading it. Now, I've shown you how to open the laptop and how you can upgrade the memory, how you can upgrade the hard drive. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't buy this model. That's the base model. You should upgrade to something that has 8 gig of RAM, something above the Celeron processors, like a Intel Core i3 or an AMD processor, and get something that's got probably at least 8 gig of RAM, and then hopefully a faster hard drive. And then you might want to think about the screen resolution. Right here we have a 1366 by 768, which means things are a little large. If your eye vision isn't so good, that's fine. If you like to fit more on the screen, you'll want a higher resolution screen. So recommendation for this particular configuration, don't buy it. For a $400 model or $500 model of the IdeaPad 330 with better processing, better memory, better hard drive, absolutely. I think the build quality is good. It's not awesome, it's good, it's gonna get by if you just treat it right. And the screen is pretty decent, and I like the keyboard. It's a comfortable keyboard. Okay, so overall, thumbs down for this one, but thumbs up if you get a better configuration on the IdeaPad 330. Thanks for watching, guys.